welcome to Inside Outlook. I'm Jeff Haver, Superintendent of Pemberton Township Schools. Today, we're going to discuss the use of vaping or e-cigarettes, which has been identified as a growing global health concern. I'm pleased to once again be joined by members of the Pemberton Township Police Department who are going to explain the prevalence and dangers of vaping. Our District Security Chief, Joe Bowen, will also join us to address the issue of vaping in our schools. With me today is Chief of Police Jay Wooders, along with two members of the Police Department. Welcome, Chief Wooders, and welcome and thank you for coming to our community to address the concerns once again.
Thank you for having me, or having us.
Yes, can you please introduce our two officers here?
Definitely. Patrolman Brenna Stone, been on the police force for approximately a year now. Comes to us, she worked as a criminal intelligence analyst with the Willingboro Police Department prior to coming to us, and she's doing a great job. Also Patrolman Dante Hodnett, who's been on for over a year now, a year and a half, is a resident of, grew up in Pemberton Township, and has served the community either in public works or with the volunteer fire department and the police department for about 14 years.
Wonderful, great to have you both with us. Chief, I'd like to get started by explaining to parents and other members of our audience exactly what vapes are and how they work. So let's turn to Officer Stone. Officer Stone, can you explain vapes to us?
Yeah, so vapes is essentially an electronic device that's used to inhale tobacco products typically, either e-cigs, there's vapes, and then there's Juuls, which is also a brand, but all of the slang is pretty much what teens are using to refer to them. And there's also like a variety of brands and types that they use that you can see on the screen now that we're finding that they're bringing to schools and things like that.
Now, are these safer than cigarettes, and what makes them so attractive to our teens?
So what teens they're drawn to the e-cigarettes because they're really easy to conceal and they can be odorless. And so they can easily conceal them in backpacks or in their bedrooms and hide them away from their parents, and they might be doing it in the household and the parents may not even know about it.
All right. So because they're odorless, it makes it much harder for us to detect.
Exactly.
Are they safer at all than cigarettes?
They're not safer. Usually they actually contain even more potent levels of nicotine, or we'll talk about marijuana later. There are higher concentrations of it inside of it.
So it's definitely not safer. There's nicotine. Why is it so popular among our teens?
I think a lot of that has to go back to advertising. So a lot of the big name brands for cigarettes like Marlboro or Cool, they have been producing these vapes, and they've obviously have a long history of targeted advertising. So we're seeing a lot of billboards and things in magazines appealing to the younger generation to purchase these products.
So now I'd like to ask Officer Hoodnett a question. So we talked about the dangers of nicotine in vapes, and individuals can actually use e-cigarettes to inhale other substances. Is that correct?
Yes. The main thing is the nicotine. Like any other kind of tobacco product, it contains nicotine, and that's an addictive substance. Once you start getting that into your body, it sends nice little signals up to your brain that you continuously want that good feeling from it. You build kind of a dependency. Dependency leads to addiction. The issue with the nicotine in the vapes is there's been issues like regulating them, lower doses to higher doses, where the kids are getting the vapes from. They may not be getting the most reputable places at some of the little stores and things like that. And you can get up to one Juul cartridge contain like 20 cigarettes in one just cartridge, and a kid can put that down in a very short amount of time. So if you're going through a couple of those in the same day, that's high levels of nicotine in your system.
Wow, so that could be almost like 60 cigarettes in one day.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't take as long, I guess, to inhale or breathing the vapes as opposed to smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, it's really accessible and really easy. And then going to the rest of your question was they can add other substances in it. We've had cases where they can put marijuana in it, CBD oils, things like that, cannabis oils that could be exchanged out from the nicotine cartridges with the marijuana cartridges. And again, reputable places where they're getting them from. I know that with it becoming legal in certain states, the popularity has risen, more socially acceptable, more very popular with your celebrities, rappers, musicians. Many people are using them and are pro marijuana. But again, at a young age, you're smoking these Juuls and the e-cigarettes and things, and you can't, really dictate how much is in there, how much is what's going on. It is still illegal for underage to smoke these types of products, and that's the main issue we've seen with it so far.
Now, somebody who grew up here in Pemberton, right? Pemberton grad 2009, I think you said earlier.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How does that concern you, just for somebody who grew up in Pemberton to see our teens getting involved and starting the prevalence of vapes throughout our community?
I would just say my main issue is how easy they're obtaining them. It's very prevalent. We've been up to the schools where the schools have confiscated them. We do this quite on the regular, unfortunately. It's obviously something us in the schools now are really taking a step forward to try and slow down. It's the popularity. I mean, it really is like anything in life, especially at that age group. They're really going to be drawn to it. All my friends using it. I've spoken to some of the students when we come in and deal with this, and they kind of look at me, this deadpan look, like I don't see what the big issue is. And that's kind of unfortunate, because if we start getting very lax on those kinds of things with vapes and nicotine
Right.
and marijuana, how quickly does that transpire into other things where it's just like, oh, I got into a fight, no big deal. Like,
Right.
no, we don't want to put out that kind of idea.
And I know, as
ideal.
Officer Stone said, it's marketed very popularly, right? It's marketed very well across the country, and it is a national problem, right? This is not a Pemberton only. It's not like in Pemberton
Absolutely not,
we're
yes.
struggling here in Pemberton. Everybody else is doing fine. This is prevalent everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a national thing. Again, like she said, with the marketing, super popular, and unfortunately, that's going to come with it, where that age group is going to be really drawn to that.
When you talked about the marijuana use or CBD oil, is that odorless as well, or would that have an odor when you're using that?
Yes, that's going to be odorless as well. Depends. So you buy like the vape pen, let's say, and then you can buy the cartridges to put into the vape pens, not only from the manufacturer that you purchase the vape from, but also from like independent suppliers. So it kind of just depends on where you're getting the liquid cartridges from, whether it's going to be odorless or whether you're going to be able to smell that being used.
So we have products that are widely marketed, right? Very popular, easy to get, right? Easy to conceal, right? And odorless, right? And also very difficult to monitor how much nicotine or how much marijuana, how much you're ingesting.
And inexpensive. Some of them, if they're disposable, it'll only cost you like $15, $20 to purchase it.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you both very much.
Yes.
Understood.
Chief Waters, is there anything else you can add in terms of for parents and people in the community to be concerned about or to watch out for in regards to vapes?
There are a couple things. First, I encourage parents to go online and research videos about vapes. There's methods to hack a vape, which can increase the potency of the substance that they're inhaling. And there's other methods of hacking to put different substances into the vape juice that is in the product. That includes putting in illegal substances and other products that may be dangerous to the kids. Pemberton Township here, we have seen numerous THC vapes and other products for vaping. We see it all the time. There has been alerts that the police departments have received throughout the state where some of these cartridges that we have seen even in our town have been found to have opioids and other materials, illegal drugs in them. So it could potentially be a dangerous situation.
So, Chief, is it correct to say that somebody could get a cartridge, think that it's got nicotine or something, something less harmful, and actually they are going to now be ingesting opioids?
That certainly could happen.
Wow. That's a real concern for us. So thank you very much, Officer Hoodnet, Officer Stone, and Chief Waters. This is a crucially important information. I appreciate you guys sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And now I'd like to turn to our District Security Chief, Mr. Joe Bowen, to talk about the issue of vapes in schools. Mr. Bowen, I know we have a policy on vapes. Can you tell us more about that policy?
Certainly. Before I do, Mr. Havers, I want to thank you for having myself and the police department representatives here. I think it's such a crucial issue for students and parents. It's something that clearly, as we heard earlier, is not just indicative of Pemberton, but I think across not only the United States, but across the world. I speak quite often with my fellow security chiefs in both Burlington and Camden counties, and they're seeing the exact same things that we're seeing. So our district policy does deal with, it's a no smoking policy that deals with tobacco, and it was amended by the Board of Education to include vape products and vape devices.
All right, excellent. Mr. Bowen, teens can make it more difficult for parents and for staff members or police officers to detect because they're able to easily conceal vapes. Can you tell us some of the things you're seeing in our schools?
Sure. And as our viewers have seen, these vape cartridges and vape pens are very small, very easy to conceal. Oftentimes what we see in the building, primarily the high school, are that students are using the vapes and then putting them in their pocket, putting them in their socks, finding other places to hide these vapes so that if they are confronted by an administrator, they might feel a little more confident that we're not going to find them.
Mr. Brown, our concern with vaping extends beyond just policy and discipline, but there are some real health concerns. And so what can parents do if their kids are vaping to help get them to quit?
While I'm addressing that, Jeff, I'd also like to point out before I do that our district policy handles vape usage and vape possession as it does with cigarettes. And what parents and students really need to know is that that policy and all that goes along with how we look at cigarette smoking, as not just as a school district, but as a nation, is based upon years and years of studies and looking at the results of long-term smoking. We don't know, society, the medical profession doesn't know what the long-term use of vaping is going to bring on. If the results are the same as they are for cigarettes, we know that that isn't good for anybody's health. But there are concerns that it goes beyond that it damages lungs prematurely. Parents should certainly look to get information from the CDC website. And also, to your point, we don't want to just be concerned about discipline. We want to make sure that the kids in our buildings who use vapes get the support and helps that they need to try to stop using the vapes. So to that end, I would encourage parents and students who have issues with vapes or concerns about vapes to speak to their building nurse or speak to their guidance counselor who could direct them to some really good sources to help end that addiction.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bowen. And before we go, I just want to see if Officer Stone or Officer Hoodnett has anything extra to add to this conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe touch on just how common it is. So again, we're talking about the CDC guidelines, going on the website, looking at those stats. They're seeing approximately 20% of high school students and about 5% of middle school students ever using vapes. And even those students that do use vapes, they use them usually at usually 20 of the last 30 days, more likely than not. So they're using them almost daily. And so, if you haven't talked to your children about this yet, or you haven't addressed it, now is the time.
Absolutely. Officer Hoodnett?
And I just want to add that, we understand that nicotine addiction is difficult to overcome. So within this presentation, there'll be a couple programs added that you can download in an app, and it can get you on the right path to help with nicotine addiction, things of that sort.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, a few reminders before we go. Our next Board of Education meeting will take place next Thursday, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the Pemberton Township High School Auditorium. Wednesday, March 30th is a staff in-service day with an early dismissal for all students. Early registration for our 2022-2023 school year for early childhood program has begun, and parents are encouraged to begin the registration process now. Details on how to register are listed on your screen and posted on the district website. And please remember, it is a free program for our preschool students. That's our show for today, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Inside Outlook.
Hi, my name is Eliza Pepito, and welcome to the Creative Classroom. We're excited to bring yet another edition of this program to explore some of the interesting activities taking place in classrooms throughout our district. Today, we stopped by Dembo Cryan Elementary School to explore an advanced avenue of learning that has heightened students' interest in technology. Literacy composition teacher Mrs. Connor has been fundamental in advancements of computer-based enrichment and has helped with the creation of the STEAM Lab. Welcome to the Creative Classroom, Mrs. Connor. Can you tell us when the STEAM program was launched?
We were just able to launch the STEAM program at the start of this third marking period. Myself, Crystal Gardner, and April Donovan started putting the program together over the summer as we wrote and planned for what this year was going to bring.
So what grade levels participate in this program?
So we currently have all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders participating in the new STEAM Lab. We are here at Dembo Cryan, at Byzanski, and at the Fort Dix School as well.
In terms of learning, what do the students learn?
Currently, the students are working on coding with robotics, which is what you'll see them doing today. We'll be launching snap circuits next, which will allow the students to really dive into what electricity is and what circuits are. After that, we'll be experimenting with things like stop motion animation and building with structures and using simple machines. And I think the students are really, really excited about what's to come.
So when you were creating this program, what was the goal in mind?
We really wanted the students to get some hands-on learning experience in areas of science, technology, engineering, and math because there's a dire need for students to go into these careers and to really have this exposure from the earliest ages as possible. So we really are hoping that getting these kids exposed to this at the 3rd grade level will really spark an interest.
What sort of projects have the children started to work on?
Right now, the students are using an iRobot root coding app, which is really quite an amazing opportunity that we've had because the students are able to use their iPads to code, which is what we would practice normally on our computers, and then translate that into what it looks like with using a robot. So they get to kind of see their code in real life.
And how have the students responded to these projects?
They've been very excited, so excited. I've had students even take time to make costumes for the robots. They've gone home and practiced on their own and have shared with me what they've been able to create. And I think overall the students have really loved it.
Thank you, Mrs. Connor. We're excited to see how this program will turn out in the future. Now, let's take a minute to get some of the students' reactions to their STEAM Lab experiences. Hi, can you tell me your name and a little bit about the project you're currently working on?
Hi, my name is Daviana, and right now we're working on robots to making them draw different kind of shapes. For instance, we're doing kind of like an overlapping diamond with squares.
Hi girls, so what are you currently working on?
We're trying to make a circle.
And how are you making this circle?
We're trying to use an 80-degree turn with straight in between it.
Okay, thank you. So, do you guys look forward to coming to this class every single day?
Yeah.
And why do you look forward to it? Do you enjoy having fun with the robots and coding them?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your favorite thing about learning something in this class?
My favorite thing about learning is about the robots because you need to learn about how to take care of them properly.
Okay, thank you girls, have fun. As you can see, the incorporation of the STEAM Lab is allowing students to explore unique ways of productive learning. Thank you Mrs. Connor and her students for allowing us to join them here at Dembo Cryan Elementary School. I'm Eliza Pepito, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Creative Classroom.